Hello there, folks. Sticking with a little bit of a Discworld vibe for the last couple of videos, I wanted to dive into a little bit of fun around the role-playing side of things at the moment. A lot of people will remember that, quite a long time ago, there was a version, or there still is a version, obviously, of the Discworld role-playing game by Steve Jackson Games, using the GURPS system as its sort of main way of dealing with your mechanical devices that you'll need in the midst of play. But it has recently been announced that Modiphius are stepping into the ring, and they are working on a new Discworld tabletop role-playing game called Adventures in Ankh-Morpork. There's a few bits and pieces about the game that have dropped so far. Nothing massively in depth, but the role-playing game is going to be set around the city of Ankh-Morpork and then some of the wider disc. It's not entirely clear exactly how much more of the disc is going to be involved in that, but this is going to be coming to Kickstarter in late 2024, and the whole point of this at the moment is that Modiphius are trying to get input from fans as to what they would like. So if you are interested in finding out more about the role-playing game, it's definitely worth coming over to check out this survey, of which I will put the link down below so you can come and check it out. But the whole idea is you dive in, you talk about what you enjoy from role-playing games and what you enjoy from the Discworld universe as well, and maybe that will get added into the mix when it comes to what Medius decides to put into the book and what they don't. It's going to be absolutely fascinating seeing what they do when it comes to the actual role-playing game itself. Obviously, Modiphius is well known for their 2D20 RPGs, and it will be fascinating to see what they do there. But they do also do a lot of publishing of different role-playing games and other war games for other companies and other creators. So it'll be fascinating to see whether they go down the 2D20 route or if they try and make something a little bit more bespoke for the world of Discworld that matches with Terry Pratchett's ideas and his whimsy and all that kind of stuff as well. His absurdism that goes on top of it too. Maybe they'll be able to nail something in that regard. We shall have to wait and see. As I did say, though, there is already a Discworld role-playing game out there, as you can see here. This is just one of the ones that I was able to find online. And if you are interested in playing Discworld, you can do that right now. It's illustrated by Paul Kidby. Features work by Terry Pratchett and Phil Masters, as you can see. And this is, as many people would regard it, the kind of tome of awesomeness for role-playing in Discworld and creating all the different characters that you'd love to see on the tabletop. And it is absolutely packed with all sorts of interesting background on the Discworld itself and sort of where you take your adventures and what kind of things you could use to start off. Fascinating and interesting mysteries and everything else in between on the tabletop. If nothing else, getting your hands on this, if you could, would probably be a really, really good way of getting a good basis for where you'd start to tell your stories when you dive into playing the Discworld role-playing game from the folks at Modiphius, even if you don't get on with the GURPS system itself, which is D6 based, if you are interested in that. I will say, though, that there is a game that has been revealed to me as part of there was a Dicebreaker article I read about this. So this one comes from Jocher Symbolic Systems, and it's available over on itch.io. And this is a 1 in a million chance at adventure, which is a love letter, a fan project that is based in the world of Discworld and Terry Pratchett's fantastic stories. The premise of this is that it allows you to try and create a interesting and absurd, whimsical adventure on the tabletop with the themes of Terry Pratchett's books, and sort of effectively a way for you to dive in and play it with a very kind of role-play forward, narratively focused adventure on the tabletop, where it's less about fighting and killing and everything else in between that you would normally get in a fantasy-based role-playing adventure, or at least a lot of the ones that people would know, and instead it dives into something a little bit more sort of intriguing, and you'll find yourself diving into mysteries and quests that may involve you plumbing the depths of fascinating libraries rather than going into the depths of dungeons. Although, of course, there will probably be some backstabbing as well, since there are assassins and thieves around every corner. This, of course, being a fan role-playing game, is entirely free. The use of Discworld and Ankh-Morpork is used throughout, but it's all done as very much a way for you to kind of get an idea of the themes and what they're trying to portray on the tabletop, without, taking away from the fact that this is Pratchett's work. And I have been downloading this and having a look at it, and I think it is absolutely fantastic. I am very much in favour of quick and easy role-playing games, and this one very much fits the bill. It uses D10s as the way for you to create all the mischief on the tabletop, and it's, as I say, set in in Discworld, so you're going to be running around the streets of Ankh-Morpork and stuff, which is absolutely fantastic. You could probably plan out entire campaigns just within the bounds of Ankh-Morpork, and it starts off with very quick and easy character creation. You have a number of points already determined for your characters, you can see here, so everyone already has one, as you can see. But then what you'll be doing is you'll be taking 5 extra points, and you'll split them between trickery, wit, force, speed, and determination, which are all very much focused on different particular aspects of your role-playing on the tabletop. Anything you don't spend can be used as Naviterium points, which are a way for you to do strange and interesting things, change the story in different directions and all that kind of stuff as well. Everything else then from that point is very kind of open and free and interesting and easy, although there are a couple of additional guidelines here and there. It's, as I said, it's very much a game of diving in and following the narrative and telling a story rather than feeling like you're trying to win at something, which I think is always important with these kind of things, and definitely fits into the idea of Pratchett stories and the Discworld as well. When it comes to the actual mechanics of the game, it's very, very simple. You roll some dice. In most cases, you're asked not to roll the dice, because if a character is particularly good at something, then they will do it, of course. But if you dive into a situation which is particularly difficult or stressful for the characters, that's when you roll the dice. And when you do, you roll 2d10. Those 2d10 are then pit against a value effectively that's set by the auditor, who's the person leading the game. This can be determined by your attributes, or 2 fitting attributes, or it could be an attribute and a skill, or an attribute and a spell, or the additional use of points from various things. This can then get modified by it being easy or hard, so you get pluses or minuses to the dice. What you're trying to do is you're trying to roll below that particular set value effectively. So obviously the better you are in something, the easier it is for you to do it. So yes, but it has to be below the points used in that success. If you get one of those dice as a success, then it's just a regular one. If 2 of them manage to succeed, then that's a proficient success, and you'll get something additional, which I think is quite nice. If you fail the rolls, something bad happens. You don't necessarily fail, as it were. You could still break through the door, you could still smash the window, you could still leap the gap, but maybe something else happens to your character at the same time. It's very much a narratively focused role-playing game in that respect. It's got that fail-forward feel to it, a little bit like the role-playing games from Free League, like a lot of like Tales from the Loop and things like that. A lot of people have seen. Another thing that I think is really fantastic is the use of skills in the game. Skills aren't something that you come up with when you generate your character. They're something that comes up through the process of gameplay. So as you're diving into your adventures, maybe you've come up to, and you have this idea in your head that your character is an assassin or a thief, for example. Maybe you come up to a locked window. You might say, aha, my character is adept at lockpicking, and so we'll put a number of points into that. You have 10 at the start of the game. That allows you to then pick the lock, well, hopefully pick the lock, and dive in and enjoy yourself as well. And it helps to build your character as you go through experiences. And even though you might have a particular idea of how a character might work at the start of the campaign, it means that it gives you a little bit more freedom as to where you take them. This also makes it, I think, really interesting for one-shots, because you could dive in and have one idea of a character, and by the very end of it, you could have a very different view of how they come out. And it maybe it's something that would then flow nicely into their character. as you started to develop it potentially in the future, if you so wished. There's some really nice bits and pieces throughout the book as well that'll be really good. One of them, of course, is the 1,000,000-to-1 roll. So this is a chance for you to use one of those navitivium points. I will say it correctly at one point. This is your 1,000,000-to-1 roll. The roll has a high chance of success, so a 2 to a 10 is considered a success, whereas a 1 is considered an absolute spectacular failure. And this can allow you to get out of all sorts of interesting and fascinating situations, as well as getting into them as well, which I think is quite nice. Another thing that I think is really, really good is that the sort of way that you develop your character is through failure and learning. So as you continue to do things, and as you fail at them, you'll start to get slightly better. And as you go through, that will allow you to either boost an attribute, get better at a skill or a spell, or maybe you could just gain some narrativium points to help you with sort of those bigger moments on the tabletop. So even if you do start out not particularly good at your wits, as you can see here, as you start to rack up your failures, they will start to be useful in sort of expanding your horizons, making you better in the future as well. So it's all about getting better through failure, which I think is absolutely fantastic and sort of fits into that kind of slapstick, funny nature of Discworld and everything as well, which I think is very, very cool. Violence is violence. You can take notes for injury that will then effectively get role played through as you get notes. You can meet death, but as it sort of fits into the world of Discworld and Terry Pratchett, that just means that you actually physically potentially meet death. So you'll get to see him, and maybe you can make a way get out of that, for example, or accept your fate and make a new character. I think that would be very, very funny for a lot of people, because you could get some fantastic moments at the tabletop where people are trying to bargain for their lives potentially, which I think is quite nice. There are a couple of different options for you to choose from in terms of the species that you can play. So you've got dwarves, trolls, gnomes/goblins, potentially the same thing, of course, zombies, vampires, and werewolves, and of course the regular humans too. There are magic rules in the game. They're very sort of floaty, as it were, depending on what you're trying to do. So it's kind of like a little bit of a bargain that you make with the other, the auditor at the table, alongside your use of navitivium points as well. So it's kind of working out exactly how you want to create a spell and sort of what you want to get out of it at the same time. There are slightly more in-depth rules for magic as part of a separate document, as you can see here, also available for you to download and check out. So it gives you some more bonus information for how to cast spells and sort of going down particular routes of magic as well. As we know, magic can be very fluid in Discworld, so this is something that I think a lot of people have some fun with, but there are some sort of more nailed down ideas there if you so desire. When it comes to sort of nailing things down, there are also more auditing rules as well. So if you're interested in trying to set challenges a little bit more, play around with the crunchier side of things as well, and have it be a bit more structured rather than free flowing, there are additional bits and pieces in there as well, especially if you're looking at combat challenges and conversation challenges, and sort of how that works too, which I think is quite nice. Additional bits and pieces in there for plot building too, which is also very helpful, especially as it's based around some of the particular characters that you might find in these adventures, which is always good. A few extra bits and pieces, some guidelines on how to follow a particularly Ankh-Morporkian profession. So if you wanted to be a wizard or a witch or a barbarian or a brute, there are some particular options there that might lead you in various ways. Of course, if you're a wizard or a witch, you might want to have quite a lot of navitivium points and able to cast those spells that you want to use in the game. Lots of different bits and pieces in there for you to choose from on that front. As you can see, lawyers and bureaucrats. Who would have thought it in a Pratchett game? Last but not least, when it comes to a 1 in a million chance of adventure, there is also a quick start beginning adventure for you to dive into and have some fun with. The Murder of Dominic Kak. I won't go into too much detail about this one, but it can be completed very quickly in one go, depending on how goal-oriented your group is, or it might take a lot longer. It sort of dives into very different ways of telling stories throughout, so you'll be able to dive into this and see whether or not a particularly good avenue for your group is to go sort of like a more structured, I use the term railroaded, but sort of guided experience, or maybe something a little bit more freeform works for them. But it also has lots of different options in here for how to set challenges and sort of take things in different directions and exploring the narrative as well. So if you're somebody who's maybe not potentially very good at, or not maybe proficient at telling a more narratively based campaign at the tabletop, this might be quite a good way for you to dive in and sort of get some guidelines as to how you do that. It's a great story. I've had a read through it. It's very fun, very whodunit. I think it would be a lot of fun for a lot of people. It hits a lot of those Discworld notes. Lots of interesting things about morality and all that kind of thing in there as well. Lots of opportunities for fun and mischief, but also danger. So it should make a lot of people very, very happy indeed, that one. But yeah, I just wanted to say there are a couple of different options, obviously, when it comes to Discworld. You can either dive into and wait for the new Discworld Adventures in Mortport game from the folks at Modiphius. Fill in that survey if you so desire. You can also get your hands on, as I was saying, the awesome... that was the thing, wrong thing. There we go. You can either dive into and pick up the awesome GURPS roleplay from back in the day, or not so awesome if you don't like the old school. It's still good to read, even then. Or if you're somebody who wants to try something a little bit different, something a bit new, there is also a 1 in a million chance at adventure from Jocher Symbolic Systems, which is really, really good. Really hits the vibe, I think, for Discworld on the tabletop, and should definitely be something that you check out if you're a Discworld fan. But yeah, as somebody who tangentially loves Discworld, has read a couple of the books, really loves the video games, well, the old PC point-and-click games, and actually has enjoyed a lot of the TV shows as well, and the sort of like mini series and that kind of thing. I really want to give this a go. I think it'd be really good fun. Could be silly and wild, which is what most role-playing games turn into anyway, so it's definitely something to have a look at. Also, maybe a good opportunity for you to, dive into this and maybe read some more Terry Pratchett, because his work is fantastic anyway. He's really funny, he's awesome, and he writes really, really cool stories that have a lot of heart to them as well. But yeah, some great stuff for you to check out when it comes to Discworld and role-playing. We've already talked about Guards of Traitors Toll already, which has a distinctly Discworld-esque feel to it. But if you're looking for a role-playing game that really, really nails that, make sure to come and check out these as well. I'm going to go off and try and find my luggage made of sapient pearwood, and I'll be back for another video very, very soon. Bye for now.